What's your favourite West End show then? What do you love? Is there a show that you keep going back to? Oh, there is for me. I love all the classics. I love Les Mis. Absolutely. Oliver, which is having a run out again at the moment. What's your favourite? Have you ever wondered what goes on backstage? How does the show work? Well, there's a new book that's shedding some light on this. Stewart Arnott has worked in the business for 40 years, culminating in stage manager for Phantom of the Opera. Yes, for 20 years. How did the chandeliers come up? Where do they appear from? His memoirs, Beginners to the Stage, Please, is out this month. And Stewart joins me now. Hello, good afternoon, Stewart.
Hello there, Rich. Good to speak to you, and thanks for having me on your show.
No, it's great to have you. I've been looking forward to this conversation because who doesn't love a West End show? And you know how they all work.
Well, yes, I have to say, yep.
It's a team, I should imagine, behind that curtain that make all these things work. You were working on Phantom, weren't you?
That's right, yes. I mean, what you say there about it being a team is exactly right. I mean, theatre is nothing if not teamwork. It's kind of like a recipe. You put all the ingredients together and hopefully what comes out at the end is far more than any individual could create. You know, the sum is greater than the parts.
And what is going on behind there? I know it's difficult to say because all the shows are different. Is it frantic behind the scenes?
Ideally, no. Ideally, everything should run, like a well-oiled machine. Everybody should know what they're doing. Of course, when a show is brand new, there's a level of nerves. People aren't so familiar with what they're doing yet when a show's new. But ideally, everybody knows what they need to do, and shows that people don't just, when they're backstage, just do the jobs they have to do. The show is queued, so there's one person that coordinates everything. So for all the scene changes, moving scenery, lighting changes, all that kind of stuff, there's one person queuing it and coordinating all of that. So that's kind of what holds it all together and hopefully has it all running like a well-oiled machine.
Well, yeah, and the magic is, of course, is we have no idea that there's someone doing that and there are all these people making this work. Is it still reliant on people, or is a lot of it now done with the push of a button?
A lot more is done with the push of a button these days than was the case in the past, but it's still very much a people thing. I mean, it's live theatre. The word is live, and that absolutely sums it up. The performances you see on stage, that's clearly live. That's, real people out there performing. And most of what's done backstage, again, is done actually by people. The things that tend to be computerised, some of the lighting is computerised, some of the big machinery nowadays, the big sets that you see moving around, that can be computerized. But even though it's computerized, there still has to be a live element to it, because something might go wrong. Somebody might be stood in the wrong place at a given moment, and so a person has to have an overview of everything and be able to make changes on the fly just to keep the performance running and keep everything going as it should be. So it's very much a live thing rather than all just a press of a button.
Of course, I was going to ask there because you said things go wrong, and I'm sorry to dwell on the negative side of this, but do things go wrong, and can you think of any examples?
Oh, well, certainly back in the past, one of the ones that used to make us laugh, although it annoyed some people, on Phantom, as a lot of listeners might know, there's a boat that moves around the stage. That's not in a track, that's just driven free around the stage with a remote control unit. And when I first started on the show, it wasn't the old analog radio signal that controlled the boat. So that meant occasionally, if a taxi on the wrong frequency drove past, the boat could pick up a wrong signal from a passing taxi and move off in random directions. It could just change direction while you're driving along. Or worse still, if we were in the middle of a scene and the boat was meant to be sitting still, it would just suddenly start moving of its own accord. And there was nothing any of us could do about that because the radio signals were coming from outside the theatre.
And I'm laughing. It's not really a laughing matter, is it? You've got to jump on it pretty quickly and try and stop it. But I guess there's, like you say, there's nothing you can do.
That's right. I mean, there's kind of two sides to that. We used to laugh as well, but at the same time, you do take it seriously. It's, it could potentially interrupt the show if it crashed into something critical. That could then interrupt the performance for the audience, and that's the last thing you want because they've come to see the show. They don't want to see things going wrong. They want to see the show that they expect. So you take it seriously. You do absolutely everything you can to make sure that things are put right and the show can continue. But yes, we used to have a laugh as well, of course. We're human too.
Of course. People are paying a lot of money to see these shows, of course, and theatre prices are incredibly expensive. But from someone who works behind the scenes, I guess you can see where that money goes.
Yes, there's an awful lot of work, and an awful lot of equipment and maintenance and so on to keep shows running. The money that people pay to see the show goes to the upkeep not only of the show but the building as well. So those big West End theatres, they're not cheap to run, and when you have a huge show that maybe takes, Phantom for example, that when the show was running there were 170 people in the building working. So, they all need to be paid. And of course, not everybody's earning a fortune. People, are just on a regular wage, living from paycheck to paycheck. But, with 170, that soon adds up. The shows aren't cheap to run.
That's amazing. 170 people. You can't imagine can you burrowing around. Tell me about your book then. This is a brand new book that you've written. Tell me what we're going to learn from this book.
Well, it describes what really goes on behind the scenes, as you said, in the West End, and specifically behind the scenes of the big musicals, since that was the field that I specialised in. And throughout the book, I kind of take the reader through each step of my career. And along the way, I use each story to explain various aspects of the industry. So I talk about how the shows are put together, the rehearsal process, how they're run, what actually happens backstage, how some of the effects are created. I talk about the atmosphere backstage and the relationships you build with your colleagues, even the relationship between those of us putting on the show and the audience, because that's a big part, of course, of making sure that people enjoy the experience. So by following that trajectory, as you read through the book, you learn about all these things in the same order as I did as I progressed through my career.
That's interesting. Can I just ask you one quick question? Because it was GCSE results day this week, and you're talking about that. The book is about you learning, but I know there'll be a lot of people who maybe have younger people in their lives who would love to work in the theatre. Well, how do you do that these days?
That's actually something that I talk about at the very end of the book. And my advice there is, if you have a dream of working in the theatre, just start. Doesn't matter what you do. You could be tearing tickets. You could be selling programs. You could be a dresser. There are various jobs that can be kind of entry-level jobs. And I would say just start. Just get involved. You could even get involved with your local amateur dramatic society, even if you're not wanting to really be a full-time part of that and to get on stage and perform. They're always happy with a helping hand to set things up. So I would say just start. Just get involved, and then one thing will lead to another.
Brilliant. Stuart, give me the name of the book again, and how can we get it, and when can we get it?
Okay, it's called Beginners to the Stage, Please. It's available in all the usual places. You can get it high street bookshops, all the usual places online. But in particular, if you order it directly from the publishers, that's troubadour.co.uk. If you order it directly from the publishers, then for every copy that's bought through them, £1 will be donated to a charity called Acting for Others. And that's a charity that supports people who work in theatre, whether they're backstage, on stage, front of house, in whatever capacity. As I said, not everybody who works in the theatre is a high earner. Most people just live from wage to wage. And this charity can offer help with things like access to counselling, benefit advice, support with nursing home fees, help with retraining, support for children and other family members. So it really is a wonderful charity that does an awful lot to help people who work in theatre. So £1 for every copy that's bought from Troubadour will go to that charity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. That's Stewart Arnott, who's got a new memoir, Beginners to the Stage, Please. I could have kept talking about what goes on behind the scenes in the theatre. So great.